afternoon, everybody. It is what time? Let me see here. What time does it say? It is 13:58. That's 1:58 Central European time. That would be 7:58 Eastern Standard Time, USA. Um, Good day to everybody. It's been, a rough couple of days, a week. I can't even say rough because I can't really get into everybody's mind what it is like um, for people in the U.S. On the ground. In different areas. There's California, right? That has that every year it just keeps having more forest fires, obviously due to climate change. But just like every year, there's hurricanes, more extreme hurricanes, more flooding. Um, you know, in the wintertime, there's going to be, you know, um, pipes, sewage pipes bursting, water pipes bursting, these kind of things, electrical lines going down, and much of it is due to, well, not much of it, I would say all of it is due to poor preparation by United States Congress people, senators, and poor call from the executive offices over the last 20 years to take climate change serious. I mean, the US has dominated global affairs, yet has failed to dominate in infrastructure inside of the United States. So we have that tragedy, um, which is apparent. But then, um, but then we have these recent events uh, that just add to it the uncertainty of these times for many Americans. Now, there are people out there hoping that the U.S. implodes into civil war. There are people out there that are happy that some Americans are experiencing suffering and pain. And a lot of times those people point out to, well, this happened to us before, and you had done this and this, and if you had not done this, then this could have been averted from us. So now feel some of the pain. I mean, there are literally people that feel that way, that express that. Um, I'm not one of those people at all. I think that's really like a infantile way to approach things. A lack of history there involved, and it's good to understand when people are being victimized, but it's also necessary to understand that you know this is a global thing. I mean, victimization happens whether you realize it. In a lot of places on earth there are victims of different types of situations, and you know if you're always seeing yourself as the victim, a lot of times it's hard to see other people's pain or other people's suffering. And yeah, so I would just remind people of that. Suffering is just suffering, and it's wise to know how to be diplomatic enough so that you encourage people to be equally concerned about you and your affairs, not just turn a blind eye. Now, obviously, nobody's going to turn a total blind eye to the U.S. because there's there's a lot of potential still there, obviously, right? But in terms of how the average person is feeling, things aren't really going that well. But I wanted to start off today. I got like an hour, something like that, an hour and a half. I wanted to start off today by sending my prayers and condolences to the families, affected families of this crash that occurred.
You're listening right now.
Let me just pull this up real quick. And yeah, apparently a helicopter, a black, I don't know what kind of, it was a military helicopter. There are some, and it's typical to have some there. It's not a high traffic military place, although they do have exact pathways that they travel. And so to avoid anything like this, and for some strange reason, today, on this day, something did not happen correctly.
To WTTG. We're now taking over to show you this. This is video from the Kennedy Center camera, and you see that explosion right there. That is the moment when this small plane apparently crashed into a helicopter. You see a fireball, and then, Marla, we see that plane head down towards the Potomac River.
Oh, what an image there. And according to our sister station in DC,
I don't really, you never know what news agency you get stuff out of. That was Fox News, but already there's a lot of people speculating about whose fault it is and what's behind it and la la la, all of these things, and but the truth is that that's not the first crash to happen on the Potomac River. It's happened once before. It wasn't due to a helicopter, a military helicopter. It was just due to poor vision, I believe. It was a winter day, just like it was. The Potomac was frozen, pretty much. Not, it doesn't completely freeze, but the top has ice on it and everything. And while the undercurrent is still there and dangerous and moving quite strongly, so when things like this happen in the Potomac, it has a way of washing bodies away rapidly, because if you're not close to the shore, the undercurrents in the Potomac have been known historically to do that, to sweep people away and keep them down in the water, not floating on top and just pushing away, but no, there's like current underneath the water, and then underneath that there's another current that's moving even faster in some ways. So yeah, we will see, but for sure, hopefully there will be some lives saved. But let me just see what they have to say here. I want to get past some of this. Here we go. I'm gonna go back to the budget backlash with Trump and his coordinated effort that he is allowed to pretend like, oh, I didn't know this, or oops, sorry, we did that. It seems very clumsy, but it was, we'll talk about that more. But let me see this.
All types of first emergency boats coming in here, putting in. You can see down there by the river where they're actually going into the water. And then I want to keep swinging around here to the left, and I'm going to dodge in front of you. And you can see now across the river as we're looking towards Bowling, Joint Base Anacostia Bowling over there. And of course, you see MGM National, the big light back there in the far distance. And you see just a massive response of police and fire lights glowing in the distance there on the other side of the river here from National Airport. So just a massive response of first responders on both sides of the Potomac River here along Reagan National Airport. I have to count here, we have at least 30 different fire trucks here that have brought in, again, boats, and you can see also there the mass casualty ambulance bus is on this lot as well. So this is just a massive response from what I can tell, just about every fire department in the area rushing to both sides of the river to do what they can to look for survivors from this horrific crash that we're just now getting our first indication of what's actually happening and took place here at Reagan National tonight.
Hey, Mark, let me ask you, just I think about a week and a half ago, we were talking about the report with one of those DC fire and rescue boats that would be used to cut through the ice. Thank goodness it's been a little bit warmer. Is that something that would have been used in a situation like this?
Yeah, so there you have it. Tragedy has struck the Potomac River. And yeah, what else can be said about it? People, they have to do their job and, see how many can be saved. But obviously 20 minutes in a temperature like that, or I mean, I don't know if 20 minutes is long, but 20 minutes, After 20 minutes under the water, finding your body, the likeliness of you being alive is not there. And it's also hypothermia and these kind of issues as well, not just drowning. But yeah, so there you have it. Yeah, I wonder myself. I think I'm having some issues myself because to me it just seems like bad omen after bad omen regarding the U.S. Now I'm going to go into the U.S. News for a second, but the rest of the news. But it seems to me like from what I've been hearing, like the U.S. because of the leadership and the style of leadership and the calculations of current leadership, it seems like the U.S. is headed for a self-induced um, inflation of goods and services, and also an economic, uh, recession that might hit pretty hard given the style of leadership of the current president. Um, when you are making enemies out of your neighbors, you create a lot of economic turmoil that cannot be so easily returned back to normal. I mean, when COVID hit last time Trump was in office, there was, we weren't attacking our neighbors. The U.S. wasn't attacking its neighbors, so the decline was really pretty much due to COVID and how COVID was handled, how fast the recovery went about, and some obvious there was a slow rollout, um, but of assistance, regarding COVID. Loads of people died. Um, I don't even know how many, but it's up there. Let me see. It's up there like war numbers. Um, you would think COVID was a war, but but it's not. It was a pandemic, and you know there's more pandemics to come, obviously. Uh, yeah. Let me see. How many people in the USA died from COVID? Let me see here. It's 1.2 million deaths. And, people act like that wasn't a lot of deaths. That's a lot of deaths. That's a lot of deaths. That's like wiping out, you know, in some places, an entire city, maybe a capital. You never know. But the U.S. has some big cities. So this is not, has 350 million citizens. Or 350 million citizens, right? Or residents. I'm sorry, and I don't know how many of those are citizens, but the majority obviously are. But yeah, 1.2 million deaths due to COVID wasn't good. Now, this time around, there is not just the issue of a pandemic that could come whenever, but it's the issue of a recession that's probably going to hit at the same time due to how Donald Trump started out his presidency, threatening trade partners. And when I say trade, I don't mean just security aspect of trade. I mean like, putting tariffs, saying that I'm going to punish American companies and Canadian companies and Mexican companies. We're going to punish them and their and the people that service their industries, the people that come and buy goods from them. We're going to punish the business people, and we're going to punish the buyer, essentially. And that, just the pure mention of that, has set the market off, the stock market, to a bad start, of this president's presidency. Yeah, because you could expect there to be one, a hiccup here and there, but usually it's going to rise back up. Now let's see here. Let me see. How much has the USA stock market um, let me see here. Now, here we go. Yeah, all the markets are down, and it's largely due to Trump's tariffs, what he announced. And I don't know what kind of genius tactic this is, but the S&P down 0.4%, but that's it doesn't have to be that great. Let's see, a Dow Jones Industrial Average down 0.29%. NASDAQ is down 0.17%. None of them are up. And usually when there's a clear indication of some policy that's going to help businesses or going to help people spend money, the average person spend money, usually it goes up, right? But here it's a clear indication that people are spending less money. And yeah, I don't know what else can come on top of that. I mean, it's due to the tariffs. It's due to the suggested tariffs that Trump said he was going to have. Now, if you're not going to ask Congress for anything, if you're not going to ask Congress to do some legislation to deal with trade, if you're not going to ask Congress to do that, then, or to investigate, look into, because you don't have to vote or present a new law. You can investigate too under Congress first, right? And you can do this stuff quietly. It can just be an announcement. Yeah, Congress is going to investigate trade regarding U.S. trade and blah blah blah, and deficits and blah blah blah. That's it. But Trump didn't do that. He went out and said, "I'm going to put this amount of tariffs on you, and you, and you," and that has kind of worked backwards, because you should investigate first and then put stuff on, investigate fully, then make changes, but it seems like Trump is really not looking for that part. He's not focused on the outcome. He's focused on the win. And sometimes you can win a fight and lose the overall war. Sometimes you can win a battle and lose the war. And I think that is something people should take note of when they watch Trump's style of engaging the public and engaging political opposition and engaging the media. His cabinet secretary of his what do you call it? The House secretary, is that it? Or no, the White House secretary, right? I'm sorry. When you look at the White House secretary, when you look at Trump in general, his cabinet, how they approach the public and the media and political opposition, it's generally very combative from the start, like instant negative, toxic exchanges. And it seems almost like, for me, in my mind, that's not a good intention of having long vision, of having a clear view of a goal past step one. It seems like they don't have a lot of plans in mind, and that the plans are very basic, very simple. That is to do a whole lot of nothing just to show that you're in power and can do something. But the truth is that for political change to occur, positive political change, and I mean positive for anybody, you might want to use Congress to, pass laws. But it's very obvious that that this is not where the Republican Party is right now, because that would make them largely have to work with Democrats, and they don't like that image of seeming like they have to work with. It's crazy because the only real legislation that's come out of the U.S. in decades has really been pushed a lot by Democrats. Republicans sign it, then it gets passed, and this can happen under both presidents, a Republican or a Democratic president. And that's how it usually goes. To be honest with you, that's what really happens. Even under Trump's last presidency, the Republican Party very rarely offers a bill about much of anything. And if you'll notice, this is why all these executive orders come. The Republicans have the majority in Congress. So why don't you write some bills and pass them and vote on them? They have the majority in the Senate. So why don't you get some bills out of Congress over to the Senate so they can look them through and pass them and send them to the president's desk? But this is not what you're going to see out of the Republican Party right now. You're really going to see no legislation. And you're pretty much only going to see executive orders, emergency things done, which largely never get to, they're not designed to make American citizens excel executive orders. They're only due to protect something, not to build anything, not to, because it takes more details to build. And yeah, so far it just doesn't seem like much is happening on that front. But let me see here. Let me go to White House press briefing. This was this was just a debacle here. This was just crazy.
Good afternoon, everybody. How are we? Good to see all of you. It's an honor to be here with all of you. A lot of familiar faces in the room, a lot of new faces. And President
And your face is new.
Trump is back, and the golden age of America has most definitely begun.
Okay, so what are the signs of the golden age? I guess in their mind, the sign of the golden age is the Dow going down. It's threatening neighbors, and without any explanation or for how it's going to benefit Americans, how it's going to benefit the gold for American citizens. I mean, they have not explained how putting tariffs on Mexico or Canada or attacking Greenland is going to bring gold to Americans. And I suspect that it's because they know that it's not. It's really just about some form of exploitation. It has nothing to do with the masses of Americans, actually,
The Senate
Who will pay for this?
has already confirmed 5 of President Trump's exceptional cabinet nominees: Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. It is imperative that the Senate continues to confirm the remainder of the president's well-qualified nominees as quickly as possible. As you have seen during the past week, President Trump is hard at work fulfilling the promises that he made to the American people on the campaign trail. Since taking the oath of office, President Trump has taken more than 300 executive actions, secured nearly $1 trillion in U.S. investments, deported illegal alien rapists, gang members, and suspected terrorists from our homeland, and restored common sense to the federal government. I want to take a moment to go through some of these extraordinary actions. On day 1, President Trump declared a national emergency at our southern border to end the 4-year-long invasion of illegal aliens under the previous administration. Additionally, President Trump signed an executive order to end catch and release and finish construction of his effective border wall. By using every lever of his federal power, President Trump has sent a loud and clear message to the entire world. America will no longer tolerate illegal immigration, and this president expects that every nation on this planet will cooperate with the repatriation of their citizens. As proven by this weekend, when President Trump swiftly directed his team to issue harsh and effective sanctions and tariffs on the Colombian government, Upon hearing they were denied a U.S. military aircraft full of their own citizens who were deported by this administration. Within hours, the Colombian government agreed to all of President Trump's demands, proving America is once again respected on the world stage. So, to foreign nationals,
What demand did Trump cede of the Colombian president? That's what I'm curious about because okay, did Trump cede any regarding negotiations to return Colombians to Colombia? Illegal immigration. Let's see here. That's what they call it. That's what it's called. Let's see here. Donald Trump, he did actually cede some things. Now, it says, yes, President Donald Trump recently, and there's some articles. Yes, President Trump recently engaged in negotiations with Colombia concerning the return of Colombian nationals. Initially, Colombian President Gustavo Petro refused to accept deportation flights from the USA, particularly those conducted using military aircraft, citing concerns over dignity and treatment of deportees. In response, Trump threatened to impose significant economic measures against Colombia, including 25% tariffs on all Colombian imports to the U.S., with a warning of increasing it to 50% if Colombia continued its refusal, visa restrictions, implementing visa limitations on Colombian officials. Following these threats, Colombia agreed to accept deported migrants, including those transported on U.S. military flights. This agreement led President Trump to hold off on his proposed tariffs, though the measure, like visa restrictions and enhanced border inspections, remain in place until first deportation flights are successfully conducted. Okay. You know, so actually, actually it says that the Colombian president ceded those demands, and she said within an hour. Okay, maybe it was within an hour, but here's the thing: what if they didn't? What if they didn't cede that demand? What if tariffs? If the tariffs move forward, what would that do? Would you gain more than you lost? No, nobody would. And see, that's the crazy part about it. It's like, you know, you can already deport people. So I'm not really sure what the tariffs are about because is it really that many illegal Colombians in the United States of America to justify the action of tariffs? Because the tariffs are going to affect the American public. Food, medicine, things like this that Americans heavily, and businesses, American businesses, heavily rely on that are based in, on goods that Colombia has, right? So, to me, it seems like the president didn't do himself, not Trump. It seemed like the Colombian president, he didn't go for the ego game. Like he didn't go for the war. Like he didn't say, you know what? Although what he's doing is bad and in poor taste, and volatile, I'm not going to let him control the moment. So he wants to bring the immigrants back, and this is how he wants to do it. And he has to do this to have a political victory towards his own population because Trump is not that popular right now. The Colombian president gave him that, ironically. So to me, it seems like that's good diplomacy on the Colombian president's part. it doesn't seem like it's good diplomacy on Trump's part because he still has the threat of tariffs to people like Canada. You know, and they're not in the same situation as Colombia, Canada. You know, yeah. So I wonder about that, but
Those who are thinking about trying to illegally enter the United States, think again. Under this president, you will be detained and you will be deported. Every day, Americans are safer because of the violent criminals that President Trump's administration is removing from our communities. On January 23rd, ICE New York arrested a
I have to wonder. I mean, is there violent Colombian criminals in the United States? Is that what they're doing, or is it Venezuelans? Because Venezuela is not Colombia. I mean, who? Where is it? I haven't really heard the story about Colombians. I've heard the story in the newspaper all about Venezuelans, right? And I'm not talking about drug cartel because there's American citizens working with the drug cartels, and if they weren't, you wouldn't see much of it going on, you know. But
Turkish national for entry without inspection who is a known or suspected terrorist. On January 23rd, ICE San Francisco arrested a citizen of Mexico unlawfully present in the United States.
see, I mean, this is the thing I'm saying. You know, there's been no mention of a Colombian criminal yet.
Who has been convicted of continuous sexual abuse of a child aged 14 years or younger. ICE St. Paul has arrested a citizen of Honduras who was convicted of fourth-degree criminal sexual conduct with a minor. ICE Buffalo arrested a citizen of Ecuador who has been convicted of rape. ICE Boston arrested a citizen of the Dominican Republic who has a criminal conviction for second-degree murder. This criminal was convicted of murder for beating his pregnant wife to death in front of her 5-year-old son. And ICE St. Paul also arrested a citizen of Mexico who was convicted of possessing pornographic material of a minor on a work computer. These are the heinous individuals that this administration is removing from American communities every single day, and to the brave state and local law enforcement officers, CBP, and ICE agents who are helping in the facilitation of this deportation operation, President Trump has your back, and he is grateful for your hard work. On the economic front, President Trump took immediate action to lower costs for families who are suffering from 4 long years of the Biden administration's destructive and inflationary policies. President Trump ordered the heads of all executive departments and agencies to help deliver emergency price relief to the American people, untangle our economy from Biden's regulatory constraints, and end the reckless war on American energy. President Trump also signed sweeping executive orders to end the weaponization of government and restore common sense to the federal bureaucracy. He directed all federal agencies to terminate illegal diversity, equity, and inclusion programs to help return America to a merit-based society. President Trump also signed an executive order declaring it is now the policy of the federal government that there are only 2 sexes, male and female.
Damn, she already went over there. Okay, there were some Colombian people that have been charged with other crimes. You know, there was only one serious crime regarding Colombians, and that was actually what it says here is the ICE arrested a former Colombian intelligence agent, Javier Alfredo Valla Anaya, who was convicted in Colombia for the 2004 murder of sociologist Alfredo Rafael Correa and his bodyguard. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I would be thinking if it was something that they were looking for, that she would have mentioned it like she mentioned these other individuals, you know, because they don't miss a rapist. They don't miss a pornographist, and not when they're a foreigner, and they don't miss. Yeah, it's funny they didn't even mention this guy, you know, and this is like, yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why they chose not to mention it, but
Sanity has been restored. Before I take
Okay, sanity has been restored. And now she's about to take questions.
your questions, I would like to point out to all of you once again have access to the most transparent and accessible president in American history. There has never been a president who communicates with the American people. And
This is the propaganda part. I don't know why. It's always Trump. It's always Trump. When he gets up here, it's his White House secretaries that actually make these kind of comments, almost like his projection. Like they
the
feel
American press
like Trump obviously hides, doesn't take a lot of questions, doesn't do a lot of presidential stuff that you can answer a question about. So then what they do is then they throw the opposite suggestion out there and say that he's the most accessible. Um, okay.
Corps as openly and authentically as the 45th and now 47th president of the United States. This past week, President Trump has held multiple news conferences, gaggled on Air Force One multiple times, and sat down for a two-part interview on Fox News, which aired last week. As Politico summed it up best, Trump is everywhere again. And that's because President Trump has a great story to tell about the legendary American revival that is well underway. And in keeping with this revolutionary media approach that President Trump deployed during the campaign, the Trump White House will speak to all media outlets and personalities, not just the legacy media who are seated in this room. Because according to recent polling from Gallup, Americans' trust in mass media has fallen to a record low. Millions of Americans, especially young people, have turned from traditional television outlets and newspapers to consume their news from podcasts, blogs, social media, and other independent outlets. It's essential to our team that we share President Trump's message everywhere and adapt this White House to the new media landscape in 2025. To do this, I'm excited to announce the following changes will be made to this historic James S. Brady briefing room, where Mr. Brady's legacy will endure. This White House believes strongly in the First Amendment, so it's why our team will work diligently to restore the press passes of the 440 journalists whose passes were wrongly revoked by the previous administration. We're also opening up this briefing room to new media voices who produce news-related content and whose outlet is not already represented by one of the seats in this room. We welcome independent journalists, podcasters, social media influencers, and content creators to apply for credentials to cover this White House. And you can apply now on our new website, whitehouse.gov/new media. Starting today, this seat in the front of the room, which is usually occupied by the press secretary's staff, will be called the new media seat. My team will review the applications and give credentials to new media applicants who meet our criteria and pass United States Secret Service requirements to enter the White House complex. So in light of these announcements, our first questions for today's briefing will go to these new media members whose outlets, despite being some of the most viewed news websites in the country, have not been given seats in this room. And before I turn to questions, I do have news directly from the President of the United States that was just shared with me in the Oval Office from President Trump directly, an update on the New Jersey drones. After research and study, the drones that were flying over New Jersey in large numbers were authorized to be flown by the FAA for research and various other reasons. Many of these drones were also hobbyists, recreational, and private individuals that enjoy flying drones. In time, it got worse due to curiosity. This was not the enemy. A statement from the President of the United States to
Why doesn't the U.S. have laws about drones already on the books, like local, federal, something done on the federal level where states have to follow it? Because to be honest with you, you can't fly drones here over a certain, you can get these drones for kids and you can have it in your backyard or whatever. But there's major areas in Copenhagen you cannot, without a license, without a actual drone license, and then without permission to fly that drone in some areas, you can't do it. And you can't even use a drone that's not made for a child, right? You can't even use it without a license here. So it's strange how to me it just seems really lackadaisious, this drone thing, because it only takes one drone to commit a lot of harm. And to not want to, have some control over drones, it sounds like they're not saying any. It sounds like they're not taking it serious. I mean, she said it
To
her
start
own words.
not
Look,
India's charges. After research and study, the drones that were flying over New Jersey in large numbers were authorized to be flown by the FAA for
okay, they were authorized to be flown by the FAA
research and
for research
various other reasons.
and various other reasons. What are the various other reasons?
Many of these drones were also hobbyists,
Hobbyist, recreational,
private individuals that
and private individuals
enjoy flying drones.
that enjoy driving, flying drones.
In time, it got worse due to curiosity. This was not the enemy.
At time, it got worse due to curiosity. Okay, but were there fines? Were there fines? I mean, or is it just that some people can do stuff they want to do without a fine?
A statement from the President of the United States to start this briefing with some news. And with that, I will turn it over to questions. And we will begin with our new media members, Mike Allen from
Damn, this sounds like a soft day, but this is the first day, so.
Axios, Matt Boyle from Breitbart. Mike, why don't you go ahead?
Thank you very much. Caroline, does the president see anything fishy about DeepSeek, either its origins or its cost? And could China's ability to make these models quicker, cheaper, affect our...
Okay, so they asking about DeepSeek, which is the new AI chat bot, which is a Chinese developer developed, and it's still private. You can't buy stock in it or anything like that. But it moved the markets a little bit. But I've been watching the markets too, because I like to stay up on stocks and stuff. But Nvidia seems like it's bouncing back. It's like $10 less than it was maybe 3-4 months ago, right? So it bounced back. It was down to 100 that day. That day when DeepSeek, when once it was announced in a major science magazine in the U.S. The stock of some others went down a little, but when you research the stock, Nvidia doesn't just make programming for AI; they make chips for AI, and they also sell these chips and cooperate with other companies that they sell their graphic cards to, right? And their graphic cards have an element of AI in it now. So that's their programming as well that they initiated with it. So, yeah, to me, it just seems like it's too early to know about DeepSeek, and there's going to be a lot of competition with AI. But I don't see why the U.S. is not and hasn't always been in a perfect place to lead with AI, just like it was in a perfect place to lead with climate change. It was in a perfect place to lead with electric vehicles. But it seemed like largely, it's ironic how Trump would be interested in AI, but not L vehicles or not climate change. I don't get it. Maybe it's the information collecting part of it, which attracts him. But AI is used for a lot of different things. You can use AI to predict climate change, for one. You could use AI to investigate, the effects of electric vehicles. But it doesn't seem like Trump uses it for that. But he's really interested in AI for some reason. I don't know.
Start thinking about expanding generation data centers, chip manufacturing?
Sure. The president was asked about DeepSeek last night on Air Force One when he gaggled for, I think, the third or fourth time throughout the weekend with members of the traveling press corps. The president said that he believes that this is a wake-up call to the American AI industry. The last administration sat on their hands and allowed China to rapidly develop this AI program. And so President Trump
What does that mean? The last administration stood on its hands. What did the Biden administration achieve regarding AI? AI tech. Let's see here. I mean, I don't know if she missed the rollout plan, the infrastructure plan, but that was part of it. Because you have to have energy to push AI. There has to be infrastructure to run AI now because it demands a lot more. Um, Here, during the president's tenure, the administration implemented several initiatives to advance artificial AI technology in the United States. Notice this was not Trump in 2017 doing this. And she made a comment about the last administration sat on his hands. Well, the one before didn't say anything about AI. Um, Executive order on AI, October 23rd. Let me flip this over so y'all can see what I'm reading. And as a matter of fact, let me just let the AI read this to everybody.
During President Joe Biden's tenure, the administration implemented several initiatives to advance artificial intelligence, AI technology in the United States. 1. Executive Order on AI, October 2023. President Biden signed an executive order aimed at promoting ethical AI development, ensuring transparency, and engaging workers in AI system design and governance. The order emphasized the protection of workers' rights and the use of AI to enhance work environments. Cite turn search. 2. National Security Memorandum on AI, October 2024. This memorandum sought to advance U.S. leadership in developing safe and trustworthy AI, enabling its use for national security purposes and contributing to international AI governance. Cite turn search. 7. 3. Regulatory Framework for AI, January 2025. The administration announced controls on advanced computing chips and certain closed AI model weights, alongside new license exceptions and updates to the data center validated end-user authorization. This regulation aimed to serve key U.S. national security interests. Cite turn search. 6. 4. 100 million competition to accelerate R&D, October 2024. The administration launched a program to increase the research capacity of emerging research institutions and the entire U.S. semiconductor innovation ecosystem, fostering advancements in AI and related technologies. Cite turn search. 9. These efforts underscored the administration's commitment to fostering innovation while ensuring the responsible development and deployment of AI technologies. Navlist, Trump rescinds Biden's AI executive order amid policy shift. Turn News 10. During President Joe Biden's tenure, the administration implemented several initiatives to...
Now check this out. This is ridiculous because, she's just like pretending like Trump was like changed. Trump changed his mind on this. Look, Trump rescinds Biden's executive order on AI safety in attempt to diverge from his predecessor. You see, so actually Biden actually was putting in the groundwork for AI security, things that you have to have in place before you just let something roam around freely and collect data from everybody. There has to be rules and regulations about it. Now listen to what she just said. Well, this is where she's missing out on some news. Uh, Oops, you guys didn't hear that. Sorry about that. Let me flip it back over one more time so you can hear what she just said. This is her answer again.
Begin with our new media members.
Caroline, does the president see anything fishy about DeepSeek, either its origins or its cost? And could China's ability to make these models quicker, cheaper, affect our thinking about expanding generation data centers, chip manufacturing?
Sure. The president was asked about DeepSeek last night on Air Force One when he gaggled for, I think, the third or fourth time throughout the weekend with members of the traveling press corps. The president said that he believes that this is a wake-up call to the American AI industry. The last administration sat on their hands and allowed China to rapidly develop this AI program. And so President Trump believes in restoring American AI dominance. And that's why he took very strong executive action this past week to sign executive orders to roll back some of the onerous regulations on the AI industry.
Now, this is what she's talking about. Look, Trump rescinds Biden's executive order on AI safety in an attempt to diverge from his predecessor. AI safety, y'all. So this is the key thing you want to think about. Do you want something collecting your data at a higher rate than has ever been known to exist before and not have any regulations on it? Right? Now, she says that Biden sat on his hands and did nothing while China took over. But apparently she's only getting half of the news, because what the issue is with DeepSeek, or with AI, particularly not DeepSeek, but with AI, it's the same. It's a similar issue as TikTok. The fact that when you are in China and you have a business, you have to turn over any information the Chinese government demands from you, and that includes user information, right? And so there lies in the need for regulation, even in the United States. Do you want someone having access to all your information at the touch of a button? Is that what you want? And don't you want rules and regulations on how AI can be used before you just fund corporations with taxpayer dollars? I mean, and this is the thing. Any company coming to the United States to work in the tech field, to work in AI, right? Or to work in tech, they will all be wanting American taxpayer dollars to help them set up business. So that means the American taxpayer can demand things from these individuals. We don't have to sit back on our heels and just act like they're bringing us a gift. Like we, of all people, need the free gift from somebody else. Americans don't need the free gift of AI. What they need is regulations to stop the invasion of their privacy, right? And this is interesting because this used to be a typical Republican talking point. Although the Democrats were always on board with safety, Republicans used to sound like they were the champions of regulation, of safety. Not when it comes to things like oil or coal, yeah, they always try to bend the safety regulations for that. But this is a new industry, and already they're kind of like seeding any type of regulations, and that's weird. Now let me just read the rest of this article here. Look, this is on AP. Let me put this in the chat also. Let's see here. AP News, Associated Press. Hours after returning to the White House, President Donald Trump made a symbolic mark on the future of artificial intelligence by repealing former President Joe Biden's guardrails for fast developing technology. But what comes next from Trump and how it will diverge from how his predecessor sought to safeguard AI technology remains unclear. The new administration didn't respond to requests for comment about the repealed Biden policy, and even some of Trump's most enthusiastic tech industry supporters aren't so sure. Now, you remember how she just came up and said, Trump is the most accessible president of all time, ever in the history of Earth. Right. Well, here it says that Trump has not, he hasn't responded to requests But what comes next from Trump and how it will diverge from his predecessor sought to safeguard AI technology remains unclear. The new administration didn't respond to Biden's request for comment and the didn't respond to requests, I'm sorry, from media's request for comment about the repealed Biden policy, and even some of Trump's most enthusiastic tech industry supporters aren't sure. I think that the previous order had a lot in it, said Alexander Wang, the CEO of AI company Scale, describing Biden's 2023 executive order. Now, she also made the claim that the administration sat on its heels. Okay, so let's go back in American history. Um, let's see here. Do you want to have industry with no regulations so that if the public is harmed, there's no accountability? Is that what Trump wants? Is that what Trump is promising his tech buddies? American citizens should want to know. You have the energy, you have the know how, you have the will to do things. This is something American people would want to know, because when they're talking about AI, they're talking about every single thing, you know, every single aspect of your life being put into someone else's hands. Don't you understand what kind of control that can give? You may not understand it, but what if your child wants to be somebody? Can the information about the child's parents be used against the child? Can any information, I mean, I shouldn't even have to explain this because there's 1,000 ways how this could go wrong. But in any case, Wang traveled to Washington to attend Trump's inaugural festivities, is also optimistic that better things are yet to come. He and other Silicon Valley leaders who previously worked with Biden's administration have embraced Trump and hope to guide his approach towards one with fewer restrictions. In its early days, Trump team has already set the tone for a very productive administration with a lot of deep collaboration between industry and government, Wang said. Not much left to repeal. Much of Biden's order set in motion a sprint across government agencies to study AI's impact on everything from cybersecurity risk to its effects on education, workplace, and public benefits. That work is done. Don't you want to congratulate Biden for doing that work? Isn't that work something that needs to be acknowledged in terms of laying the safe ground for AI to exist in the United States of America? But she just act like it wasn't nothing. And again, it's lie. She actually presented lies, several lies in a row, but it's completely and utterly not just partisan, but it's kind of like a fascist in a sense, like the leader says something and therefore it has to be true because the leader said it, and you're only allowed to repeat it, or you are a combatant. You're not allowed to ask a question. You're not allowed to research it, and I'm pretty sure this lady's going to be very hostile towards media unless they just rig the whole house with, you know, they make it sound like they want more media in the place, but maybe it's just the media that they want, and that's it. I don't know how different that is, but the reports have been written and the recommendations generated, and they're available for everyone to build on, said Alexandra Reeve Given, CEO of the nonprofit Center for Democracy and Technology. The executive order's work is completed, whether or not it's rescinded. Exactly. So even though Trump rescinded the work had already been done, and the report can be found. Now I'm gonna okay, not only that, but much of the standard setting established by Biden's order followed the path of earlier AI executive orders signed by Trump. Okay, so Trump signed one in his first administration, carried over into Biden's administration. The way she described this is totally different. If you look past the kind of political positioning on this, the Biden executive order built upon themes that were established in the first Trump administration and have been reiterated by bipartisan voices in Congress. Exactly, but you wouldn't hear that from Trump's White House secretary. One key provision of Biden's AI order is that it is still in effect until Monday. Okay, so that was still in effect until Trump took office. All right, so let's go back to her rant.
And President Trump has also proudly appointed the first AI and crypto czar at this White House, David Sachs, whom I spoke.
Why would there be one person who's the czar of AI and crypto? What's that all about? To me, that sounds shady.
With yesterday, very knowledgeable on this subject, and his team is here working every single day to ensure American AI dominance. As for the national security implications, I spoke with NSC this morning. They are looking into what those may be, and when I have an update, I will share it with you, Mike.
And Carolyn, you say restore U.S. dominance. Is there a fear that the U.S. either is falling or has fallen behind? And how would the president make sure the U.S. stays ahead?
No, the president is confident that we will restore American dominance in AI.
Yeah, so Caroline, first off, thank you to you and President Trump for actually giving voices to new media outlets that represent millions and millions of Americans. The thing I would add, I've got a two-part question for you. The first is just, can you expand upon what steps the White House is going to take to bring more voices, not less, which is what our founder, Andrew Breitbart, believed in, into this room where they rightfully belong?
Yeah. Absolutely. And as I said in my opening statement, Matt, it is a priority of this White House to honor the First Amendment. And it is a fact that Americans are consuming their news media from various different platforms, especially young people. And as the youngest press secretary in history, thanks to President Trump, I take great pride in opening up this room to new media voices to share the president's message with as many Americans as possible. In doing so, number one, we will ensure that outlets like yours, Axios and Breitbart, which are widely respected and viewed outlets, have an actual seat in this room every day. We also, again, encourage anybody in this country, whether you are a TikTok content creator, a blogger, a podcaster, if you are producing legitimate news content, no matter the medium, you will be allowed to apply for press credentials to this White House. And as I said earlier, our new media website is whitehouse.com. You are producing legitimate news content, no matter the medium, you will be allowed to apply for press credentials to this White House. And as I said earlier, our new media website is whitehouse.gov/new media. And so we encourage people to apply. Again, as long as you are creating news-related content of the day and you're a legitimate independent journalist, you're welcome to cover this White House.
And secondly, Caroline, you said you laid out several of the actions that President Trump has taken. Obviously, it's a stark contrast to the previous administration of breakneck speed from President Trump. Can we expect that pace to continue as the first 100 days moves along here and beyond that?
Absolutely. There's no doubt President Trump has always been the hardest working man in politics. I think that's been proven over the past week. This president has again signed more than 300 executive orders. He's taken historic action. I gaggle the board air.
But the executive order, I think she didn't hear the bad news at this moment. She's about to slip up, obviously, but I just wanted to review this. I didn't actually watch the whole thing.
Force one to mark the first 100 days of this administration, 4 p.m. last Friday, or first 100 hours rather. And this president did more in the first 100 hours than the previous president did in the first 100 days. So President Trump, I think you can all expect for him to continue to work at this breakneck speed. So I hope you're all ready to work very hard. I know that we are. Zeke Miller.
Thanks, Caroline. A question that we've asked your predecessors of both parties in this job. When you're up here in this briefing room speaking to the American public, do you view yourself and your role as speaking on, advocating on behalf of the president, or providing the unvarnished truth that is, not to lie, not to obfuscate to the American people?
I commit to telling the truth from this podium every single day. I commit to speaking on behalf of the President of the United States. That is my job. And I will say it's very easy to speak truth from this podium when you have a president who is implementing policies that are wildly popular with the American people. And that's exactly what this administration is doing. It's correcting the lies and the wrongs of the past 4 years, many of the lies that have been told to your faces in this very briefing room. I will not do that. But since you brought up truth, Zeke, I would like to point out, while I vow to provide the truth from this podium, we ask that all of you in this room hold yourselves to that same standard.
Are you going to is Trump going to release the Jeffrey Epstein investigation information or whatever the FBI has on Jeffrey Epstein. Is the president going to do an executive order to release it?
Standard. We know for a fact there have been lies that have been pushed by many legacy media outlets in this country about this president, about his family, and we will not accept.
The president is married. She's to an immigrant. His vice president is married to an immigrant. His children are half immigrants, right? Born of people that are not American, essentially, right? Maybe they got married and became American shortly after. Maybe they got some favor because of the money that Trump has, being a billionaire. And, I don't understand what it is about the lies that they're speaking because, everyone can't be a liar. Like, is the global news a liar about Trump? Is everyone just lying, or do people have the right to not agree with Trump?
That we will call you out when we feel that your reporting is wrong or there is misinformation about this White House. So yes, I will hold myself to the truth, and I expect everyone in this room to do the same.
And Carol, I just had a substantive question. Yesterday, the White House Office of Management and Budget directed across the board free.
Here we go. She said that this was what the American people wanted. She said the American people were wildly, happy about this. This is what he has talked to the American people about before he became president. Wrong. Not really at all. I didn't hear any talk about it, but this is a great question.
The truth, and I expect accept misinformation. Same.
And Carol, I just had a substantive question. Yesterday, the White House Office of Management and Budget directed across the board freeze, with some exceptions for individual assistance, we understand, to federal grants. It's caused a lot of confusion around the country among Head Start providers, among providers services to homeless veterans, Medicaid providers, states saying they're having trouble accessing the portal. Could you help us clear up some confusion, give some certainty to folks? And also, is that uncertainty, how does that uncertainty service the president's voters?
Well, I think there's only uncertainty in this room amongst the media. There's no uncertainty in this building. So let me provide the certainty and the clarity that all of you need. This is not a blanket pause on federal assistance and grant programs from the Trump administration. Individual assistance, that includes, I'm not naming everything that's included, but just to give you a few examples, Social Security benefits, Medicare benefits, food stamps, welfare benefits, assistance that is going directly to individuals will not be impacted by this pause. And I want to make that very clear to any Americans who are watching at home who may be a little bit confused about some of the media reporting. This administration, if you are receiving individual assistance from the federal government, you will still continue to receive that. However, it is the responsibility of this president and this administration to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. That is something that President Trump campaigned on. That's why he has launched DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, who is working alongside.
They should have asked her, is it legal? Because it's not apparently regarded by the courts. It's not yet. And it's the Congress that has the control over the purse. The Congress allocates funding through voting in the Congress. They discuss what they're voting on, and they negotiate what they're voting on, and both parties are present. Now, I'm not really sure why Trump, without investigating first, without using the office of the presidency to investigate first, to understand how these things could impact people, to have a rollout plan for what happens when he says, I'm freezing everything, right? How it plays out. And apparently he didn't really have a rollout plan, because the first thing that happened that you hear about is people all over the country not able to access the funds.
OMB. And that's why OMB sent out this memo last night, because the president signed an executive order directing OMB to do just this. And the reason for this is to ensure that every penny that is going out the door is not conflicting with the executive orders and actions that this president has taken. So what does this pause mean? It means no more funding for illegal DEI programs. It means no more funding for the Green New scam.
But they haven't been proven to be illegal. And just calling everything DEI is ridiculous, because it's actually part of the law to not discriminate. It's actually part of the law to make sure you're not discriminating, and to combat discrimination. And DEI, that's largely what it was about, to make sure that discrimination that otherwise remains could be basically combated through a mechanism, and through a mechanism that provided solutions that had never been provided before, regardless of the amounts of discrimination that people have complained about over the years. It's nothing new. So it's just like they've turned DEI into what they're doing. They went in there and fired everybody based on what their beliefs are, personal beliefs. They have a belief about abortion, right? So they're going to fire anybody that had an abortion or believes otherwise, even though their job in the government has nothing to do with that. And this is unprecedented, but she's trying to frame it as someone else did something illegal, so the president. But where has it been stated to be illegal? That's what I'm trying to figure out. I don't think it's that simple. I don't think that's been litigated in a court. It will be litigated in court, but it hasn't.
That has cost American taxpayers tens of billions of dollars. It means no more funding for transgenderism and wokeness across our federal bureaucracy and agencies. No more funding for Green New.
You see, these terms don't have government. They're not legal terms, which she's using. So I don't really get it. And that's ironic, because you can't find it using those terms. What is it they're doing regarding wokeness in the government? You can't find it. It's really sad that the media feels like it cannot question these kind of statements, when the average person in the United States does not know one bill with the word wokeness in it that has been passed by the Biden administration.
Means no more funding for the Green New scam that has cost American taxpayers
You hear that? Green New scam. But the globe agrees that industrialized nations such as the United States, China, and others, India and a few others, have produced more carbon emissions than the rest of the world put together, and it is polluting. It's creating climate change. The war of industrialization, who will come out on top, has polluted. And the mere fact that she's standing here opposed to science, she's not just opposed to one scientist, she's opposed to the mass majority of science on the topic. And it's actually, I don't even know where they're going with this, because I don't think it's possible for the U.S. to move forward without a lot of the great advances that the climate change conversation has produced. Like, because of climate change, there has been an infrastructure rollout, right, to combat climate change. And if you don't recognize climate change when you see it, you won't have a rollout to deal with it. And so I would say Republicans, MAGA people who live in these towns that get flooded, you might want to start wondering what she's talking about, because the houses that you will have rebuilt, the sewage systems that you will have rebuilt, the electrical lines, how those will be rebuilt. All of these things, all of that infrastructure directly speaks to the need because of climate change. The climate right now does not support old housing. It does not support old sewage pipes. It does not support a lot of things. It doesn't support what you see what's going on in California. I mean, it doesn't support what is there already to combat fires. It's just way past the norm, the heat and the impact of climate change. So that's when you need a federal government that's on your side, because the federal government operates on taxpayer money. And the reality of it is that a lot of the states that know a lot about climate change are the states that are actually generating the most federal dollars. So, and to the GDP actually, or just tax dollar, profit to the GDP, but paying more federal dollars too, federal income tax dollars. So she's talking about it like it's like she's saving money. But listen, all people don't want you to save money that way. Guess what? Some people do live in places where there's more flooding. They need you to play a role in that. And they need you to play a role to say that, yeah, the flooding is getting worse every year. And therefore, we have to update our systems because of that to spare lives. That's the role of the federal government. But it seems like
tens of billions of dollars. It means no more funding for transgenderism and woke.
You hear that? It's like this is what is in the back of her mind. No more funding for transgenderism. I mean, she's truly a hateful person. You know, I don't understand their fixation, because transgender population is extremely minute. And although she doesn't want to discuss it, there are people born differently than her physically. You know, again, we talked about this often. There's people born with 6 fingers. There's a lot of people born in the USA with 6 fingers. There's a lot of people born in the USA with 6 fingers and didn't even know it. They just have them clipped off when you're a baby. You know, not everybody's born with 6 fingers, but, again, human bodies and human beings come very differently. So, you don't know who a person is. You're not in a situation where you're walking down the street asking people to pull down their pants so you can see their sexual or organs. You're not asking them that on the day to day. So even this woman, we do not know what she really is, because we have no personal evidence of her sex. We don't have it. You see, we're assuming this is a woman. We're assuming she has a vagina, but we don't know. And why would we care to know when it comes to her job? Why would I need to know that she's not a transvestite? Why would I need to know that? Does it somehow play into the job as White House secretary? I don't think so. Unless she is going to, personally give her own views of it. And that's not really what you're supposed to even be doing as a White House secretary. Even if she was transgender herself, she wouldn't be there to speak on that. So why is she, I guess it's because Donald Trump has a hatred for these types of people. And although he can't explain it, what it is, but yeah, to me, it just seems like a diversion from many of the other things that you can see are so much more pressing. I want to see how people react 6 months from now, when everything costs more, when there's more hurricanes, more disasters, and I want to see how people react when this White House secretary comes out at those moments when people are totally fed up about other services not working and other things not going well. Um, I want to see her divert to transgender then.
Across our federal bureaucracy and agencies. No more funding for Green New Deal social engineering policies. Again, people who are receiving individual assistance.
Green Deal? What did she just say?
Wokeness across our federal bureaucracy and agencies. No more funding for Green New Deal social engineering policies.
Green New Deal social engineering policies? What is a Green New Deal social engineering policy? What social engineering? So I don't understand, where's the social engineering happening? Is it happening on TikTok? Where is it happening? Is it happening on Facebook? Where is it happening? The social engineering. Where is that happening? Is it happening from the White House secretary's podium? Where is it? That's what I'm trying to figure out, because I don't see how she just started off saying she was for freedom of speech. Now she's not.
Again, people who are receiving individual assistance and tens of billions of dollars. It means no more funding for transgenderism and wokeness across our federal bureaucracy and agencies. No more funding for Green New Deal social engineering policies. Again, people who are receiving.
It's social engineering when you don't like it. Apparently, that's what it sounds like.
Individual assistance.
It's freedom of speech when you like it.
You will continue to receive that. And President Trump is looking out for you by issuing this pause because he is being good steward of your taxpayer dollars.
Thanks, Caroline.
Sure.
How long is this pause going to last? And how is the Trump administration recommending that organizations that rely on federal funding make payroll, pay their rent in the meantime?
It is a temporary pause, and the Office of Management and Budget is reviewing the federal funding that has been going out the door. Again, not for individual assistance, but for all of these other programs that I mentioned. I also spoke with the incoming director of OMB this morning, and he told me to tell all of you.
All right, so let me get out of that. Here we go. This is Trump now.
This is a stunning course.
Now, this was right after, right?
Correction from the White House. The plan to freeze federal grants and loans caused widespread panic and confusion. Many lawmakers say officials didn't consider the potential impacts on organizations that provide critical aid and the people who rely on it.
Our Matthew Torres is live at the U.S. District Court in D.C., where there was supposed to be a hearing on Monday to talk about this. So, Matthew, what now?
Hey, Zoe, well, we know this happened.
So you see, this was not legal. So she said a lot of lies. She said a lot of lies in that small, short period of time. And when you're used to, or when you're given the license to spread so many lies in one paragraph, a lot of times people don't get to dissect all of the comments and all the lies that are said. But it was not legal. Here's a sign that it was not legal, because it ended up in court. If it was legal, the court would not have accepted it. But the court was on the way to accepting it. And then just because they were on the way to accepting it, guess what? And because of the press secretary's comments on it, Trump decided to rescind it. He didn't want it going through the legal processes, you see? And people should be concerned about that, because they're claiming that it's illegal. They're claiming that they're doing legal things and everyone else is doing illegal things. DEI is illegal, according to her, even though it's not. There is nothing called a social engineering, climate change, blah, blah, blah. That's not. Right? But on the flip side, there really is this hearing that was set up in a court due to backlash regarding the federal freeze. And in her mind, that's not real. All of this is fiction.
one day after a federal judge temporarily blocked this memo from being implemented, but it appears this is not completely over. Within the last few hours, the White House press secretary posting on social media saying that this is not a rescindment on the actual federal freeze, but rather rescinding the memo itself, since there is that court injunction. Now, I'm being told that there is still that court hearing here scheduled on Monday. For now, it will continue. So again, still a lot of questions in the air. In the meantime, though, organizations tell me they are staying cautiously optimistic. If you ask the team behind Community Work Lift in Hyattsville, the last 48 hours have been stressful.
It's been very frustrating.
Executive Director Trey Davis says they were prepared.
Skal du til at bygge din hjemmeside i WordPress?
White House. Okay, here it is again. The White House rescinded it. Let's see here.
Well, that had such far-reaching impact, the one that froze federal aid, including grants and loans, putting programs in limbo, programs such as Meals on Wheels and Head Start. Today, the memo detailing the federal funding freeze was rescinding. You'll recall the White House so strongly defended the same memo yesterday, saying it was not confusing, even though lots of Republicans on Capitol Hill were befuddled. There was even an adamant defense yesterday from White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller right here on The Lead.
The OMB guidance memo, if you read it, is as clear as day.
It's pretty
my point is,
and confusingly written. Parts of it are about DEI, parts of it are all disbursement. If the memo was so clear as day, why, of course, did the White House rescind it today? The answer, it was not clear as day. Just a few minutes ago, President Trump blamed the news media for the confusion.
As was explicitly stated, this in no way affected Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, or other entitlements that Americans depend on. And I'm waiting right now to correct any confusion that the media has purposely and somehow, for whatever reason, created. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid have not been affected by any action we're taking in any way, shape, or form.
So here's the thing. He's right about Social Security and Medicare being explicitly stated it wouldn't affect it. But questions of whether the freeze impacted Medicaid and other programs, that was not clear. Let's just stick with Medicaid. State Medicaid portals yesterday stopped working, briefly jeopardizing payments. And when the new White...
You know, when you have rollouts like this, the people that give the orders, the executive order, it is their responsibility to state exactly what is in it so people know. And they didn't, because they didn't want people to know. They wanted to do it quickly and get it done with and move on to the next thing. And when they couldn't get it done quickly under people's noses, you know, before people figure out what's going on, they ended up in court, you know. And this is just ridiculous, to having to watch someone come out there and lie. And the first thing she did was talk about other people lying. Everybody's lying on us. And then she got caught in a lie. The con is doing the things he wants to get away with. Exactly. Fortunately, he was stopped this time. Yes, it's only because there are legal experts regarding the law taking them to task in the courts, and they ran from the courts, you know. But it's in an ugly way, because it kind of shows you they don't have any respect for the truth, because they can't even admit they screwed up. She can't even admit she screwed up in her own tweet or whatever she put out there later, trying to cover up the screw up. You know, they can't admit fault at all. They, you know, and that is dangerous. Could Biden admit fault? Biden admitted fault several times, but the main thing he admitted fault to was something people accused him of for long periods of time, and he wanted to clear that up. And that was the bill that they passed in the 90s regarding the war on drugs, right? Saying that it was too harsh, saying that that there were unintended consequences, and it resulted in inequality in the prison systems. Yeah, that's what he said. But he also said everyone was on board with it, pretty much. It wasn't him only. It was damn near, you know, I mean, it got the votes in Congress, bipartisan votes. And on top of it, did he get stopped in the courts? No. So, but he actually spoke about that. But when you see them making small little mistakes and they can't even admit to small ones, it shows you they have no intent on ever addressing the larger mistakes. California, was that a mistake? Yes, that's a mistake. You don't terrorize and harass the very people that are saving lives in a disaster. But that is what Trump chose to do. He didn't choose to find commonality in the disasters. Oh, there's a disaster, floods happening in the southeast. Yeah, there's this happening in the Midwest, tornadoes. In California and the West Coast, there's fires. They didn't see commonality in that. They actually tried to politicize it, and not even tried to, did politicize it. I mean, that's crazy.
White House press secretary.
Basically, this press secretary, if you ask me, her job is to gaslight the public and to say it's not what you think it is. No, it's because some conspiracy.
Was asked yesterday, does this freeze impact Medicaid? Here's what happened.
It wasn't clear to me whether you were saying that no Medicaid would be cut off. Obviously, a lot of this goes to states before it goes to individuals and so forth. So are you guaranteeing here that no individual now on Medicaid would see a cutoff because of the pause?
I'll check back on that and get back to you.
Right.
It's not the news media that prevented her from answering.
You see, she didn't know the answer. And that should be shocking to every citizen, every taxpayer, how they made a move so broad and actually don't have any idea about the details. But she's out there to tell you what happened, and she started off accusing a whole bunch of people of lying and, things being untrue. And then, just all types of things. And then when you ask her a basic question like this, she ain't got the answer.
Answering that question that the news media asked. Let's bring in CNN's Jeff Zeleny. He's at the White House. Jeff, all right, reset. Where are we? Is there any clarity on where this whole ordeal stands and what the freeze applies to?
Jake, let's start with the bottom line. The bottom line is that one of President Trump's biggest uses of presidential authority has just been tested. The White House is reversing course on the action from Monday night that imposed this sweeping pause on $3 trillion of programs. As you said, not Social Security or Medicare.
First of all, y'all, anytime somebody's stopping $3 trillion on the first day, and they haven't done any communication about it with the public, with Congress, that is an extreme abuse of power, probably never seen before in the history of the nation. Secondly, $3 trillion can't possibly be for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. It's for hundreds, if not thousands, of different things that are necessities to the American people. And he just did it, a blanket one across the board, except Medicaid and except Social Security. Well, what about all the other thousands of things that are just like Medicare, just like, life-sustaining things? What about that? What about that stuff? And there's no mention from them about it. People should be upset. There's got to be two outcomes. Either you're scared and don't know what to do, or you're waking up and you are becoming very angry about what is happening with your tax dollars. How a president could all of a sudden change the rules and claim that Congress does not write the purse, and then try to go in some manner that's never been done before. And instead of eliminating one little thing, instead of really doing your hard work and going in to find the detailed points, one little pin or 5 pins out of 1,000 pins to discuss or overturn, he didn't do that. He just said, fuck it, let's just do it all. That's pure arrogance, pure abuse of power. And this is the start of this presidency. So Let's see how it goes in 6
But
months.
housing programs, so many other things really across the federal government. Today, the Trump administration.
What does housing programs got to do with being woke? Or what does it have to do with social engineering on climate change? Well, I mean, that's a good question to ask Trump. But people are never going to get a chance to ask Trump or this White House secretary much because, to be quite honest with you, they're not that accessible as they claim. And they don't actually inform people of what is going on. This woman, she's a woman. It could have been a man. I don't know. I don't really know if she's even a woman, to be honest with you. I don't know. I would have no way of knowing. I don't know what's between her legs. I don't know what her gender is. I only know what she says it is. I would have no proof. I would have no evidence. I would have no way of knowing myself or verifying any of it. So she might just be calling herself a woman. How do we know? And that's the whole point with, I think, a lot of the laws that they don't want a transgender person using the bathroom, using the toilet. And then they try to put a fear thing in there like, the transgender person might be a sexual deviant. Well, what about all the men sexual deviants and the women sexual deviants, the ones that aren't transgender? What about them? Can they use the toilet sometime? When can they take a caca? You know, I mean, I hate to say it that way, but the stuff has to make sense, and it doesn't. I mean, you mean to tell me because of bathrooms, you don't want a transgender person using the ladies' bathroom or the man's bathroom? You mean you're going to cut housing benefits and medical benefits to 99.9% of Americans who are not transgender? That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous, and that is harm. That is harmful. And if they approach things like this, people are in for a lot more of this.
Administration decided to rescind that. Of course, this comes after a federal judge ruled last evening that he was going to put a temporary pause on all of this,
You see, the judge stated after looking at it, saying he was going to put a temporary pause on all of it, and then they would go into hearings and find out later. That means a pause on the freeze. That means people would get access. That means he would have to, what he didn't want is he didn't want the loss in the court. So he rescinded it and is running away from it. And but people shouldn't let him just duck under the covers for one day. People should follow up and say, what the hell were you doing? What the hell were you thinking about? Don't ever do something like that again. That is more harmful to all of the people than it is to help or save anybody. It didn't save anybody, what he did. It's ridiculous. But hold on, let me let this play a little bit.
Bringing this entire matter to court as early as next week. That is what the Trump administration was hoping to avoid. A legal battle right now, at least, that is essentially a review on these programs, but also a bigger test on the president's executive authority.
But you got to spend time reviewing programs, and they literally spent no time whatsoever in the White House. They didn't use any staff. No staff was used. No governmental staff was used to come up with, to dissect or go into any of these things. And this man is trying to fire people that would do the reporting, that would actually come up with some data for him. That is ridiculous.
There's no doubt that this is the biggest walk back, the biggest reversal so far in this administration. It's almost reminds me, at least, of the travel ban in the first Trump administration when there was
this might be the biggest walk back in history.
The chaos that ensued with that widespread travel ban, which was rejected by the courts. However,
this is not the first time Trump has done this. And I think it shows to his inability to really lead, because a president, one thing they can do is ask Congress to act. Trump didn't ask Congress to act. He didn't present any problem to Congress. Why? Because Congress would have to sit there and have a public conversation where all of the facts would come out to the public. That's what it's for. He didn't even ask for that.
This does leave in place
Sounds like he doesn't want it.
the executive orders the president signed last week, which he says is intended to effectively weed out the woke ideology, DEI programs in foreign aid and the like. But it does not.
No, it doesn't. Because that's such a tiny percent of the population. You don't need to scratch $3 trillion from a budget to do that. And secondly, no, what he stopped has really nothing to do with transgender. It has something to do with, can you get medical supplies to your grandmother or your sick child? Can you get, will you have a place to live at the end of the month because you get some federal assistance for housing? Gone. Frozen. People can't access the system. States can't access the systems. Well, what direction did you give states in that situation when suddenly they're frozen out of the systems? What direction was given by the president to alleviate that matter?
Not give them the authority to change the programs already approved by Congress. So the bottom line here is, after hearing from so much backlash from Republicans and Democrats alike, Republicans were hearing from their constituents as well about local programs. This was on the front page of virtually every local newspaper across the country, about university funding, about grant funding, Pell Grants, etc. The White House heard that and decided to rescind that memorandum from Monday.
But why didn't the White House go out there and want to hear from people first? Why didn't the White House want to hear from the voters first through their congressional members that they elected so they could do their job? Why didn't the White House want to use those resources? To me, it just seems like a cultural war had been decided by one person, Donald Trump, and not the American people. And when you do things that way, you end up hurting way more people than you help. And I suspect a lot of these MAGA people only care because it hurt them. I mean, they're living in the poor states that are receiving most of the benefits. And that's the craziest part about it. Like, it's really them complaining the most, and yet their own representatives aren't doing a damn thing about their complaints. Let me see here. Then there was, here we go. Let's hear some more.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. I'm joined here today with my colleagues, California Attorney General Rob Bonta, Illinois Attorney General Kwame Raoul, Massachusetts Attorney General Andrea Campbell, New Jersey Attorney General Matt Platkin, and Rhode Island Attorney General Peter Nerona. Yesterday, the President's Office of Management and Budget issued a memorandum ordering all federal agencies to withhold the majority of federal funding beginning at 5 p.m. today. There is no question this policy is reckless, dangerous, illegal, and unconstitutional. From the families who rely upon Head Start for childcare.
She called it illegal, and it was illegal until further notice, which is why Trump did not want to go to court and fight it out, the legalities of it. He decided to rescind it because he knows it's illegal. And it's not just illegal for a Democrat. It's illegal to even Republican judges. They have never seen someone try to attempt to do anything like this before. So the presidents, that they go on, there may not be a whole lot of modern precedents, but I'm sure there is some. But this is so extreme, it's likely to not have much precedence, although it's, to me, it sounds like it's resolved in the Constitution. The Constitution says what the limitations of the president are and what the limitations of the Congress are, what the Congress's job is and what the president's job is. And in no way, shape, or form could what Trump did be described as what the Constitution describes the president's job as. It's just black and white.
To the children across the country who depend on SNAP for their next meal, to the seniors who rely on state services to get the care that they need, this policy will disrupt the lives of millions of Americans in New York and nationwide. And while the administration may be attempting to clarify the scope and meaning of this memorandum, the reality is that some states are already reporting that funds have been frozen.
Now, I want to remind people the White House has an attorney. The White House has an attorney. Let me just drop that in the link too for people. I'm going to take a pause and then I'll be back in like 15 minutes, or 10 minutes. I'm sorry. But the White House has an attorney, right? And the White House attorney's job is to actually look at all those executive orders that the president signed, right? And to look and discover the legality or illegality in it. And apparently, the White House attorney didn't do such a great job, and that makes me wonder even further, because if your attorneys in the White House are not good, man, they're gonna have you signing a whole lot of garbage that ain't going nowhere. And a real attorney with historical law background would have adverted many of these executive orders, would have had adverted this embarrassment to the Trump administration. I mean, what a horrible first day. What a horrible first week. And then when you go back and listen to how this lady talks, the White House press secretary, she talks like she's living in the Twilight Zone, like everything worked out fine. Yeah, I'm really, really out of this. Let me see here. I got 1 minute live. Let me just read this last comment. I'll be back in 10 minutes, because some of them believe their constituents are nothing more than entitled beggars, yet they don't see themselves as government welfare recipients. And they are. It's the billionaires are government welfare recipients, and the red states are largely the biggest welfare recipients of all. They're the ones with the weakest economies in the world, in the red states, due to their own governance, due to their own governors, senators, Congress people, and local government. It's just that simple. Nobody's making them like that. They're not working. They're working. They're working against poor people in their own states, poor white people. They're literally, these people are working against poor white people, not even just poor black people. There's more poor white people that they're working against with this kind of crazy stuff. And just because racism is so real, you can't convince these white people to pay attention, damn near. I'm not talking about all white people. I mean, within this political scope, these MAGA people, they are really just not too aware of what's happening. But in any case, I'm going to be back. I just got to take a 5 minute break, and I'll be right back with everybody. I appreciate y'all. Thanks, Andrea, for stepping in too. I'll be right back.